Hello friends, in today's class we will start with our third unit which is completely dedicated with your CPU part. In this unit we will be going to study about your central processing unit. So let us come with the syllabus. In this central processing unit we will be going to see that what are the basic parts are there in CPU. So we will be going to have the register, general register organization. Apart from this, we will be going to see what is stack organization. Okay. Apart from this, what are the different instruction formats are there for your CPU? What are the addressing modes for an instruction formats? Okay. For whatever the instruction you are going to design it. What are the different addressing modes you are going to have? That addressing modes we will be going to discuss. And next we will be going to see that what are the instructions which are related with your data transfer and manipulation, as well as program control instructions we are going to discuss. So this is completely related with your CPU. So basic CPU which is available, in that basic CPU what are the general things are available, those things we will be going to discuss. We will not be considering a particular CPU. Like you are going to have different types of processors, everything you are going to have. As the technologies are increasing, you're changing your processors and varying the processors. So those things you are going to you'll be going to study in depth in microprocessor and microcontrollers. In our particular COA subject, we will generally discuss about basic CPU and what are the parts are there in this basic CPU. Okay, after discussing the CPU, we will be coming with your two types of instruction sets. One is CISC and RISC instruction set. CISC is nothing but your complex instruction set computer, and RISC is nothing but your reduced instruction set computer. Whenever you are going to design any particular CPU, either you are going to use your instruction set in the complex format or reduce. So basically your CPU will come into the two different technologies. So we will see that what are the features are there in RISC, what are the features are there in CISC, and we will be going to do the comparison between RISC and CISC. Apart from this one, we will be going to see that how the pipelining concept is been implemented in your CPU. Okay, and what do you mean by vector processing and array processing? So what is pipelining, how the pipelining concept is implemented, what is the advantage of those pipelining concept? Okay, what is the difference between a pipelining and a parallel execution processing? Okay, those things we will be going to discuss in the last part of our third unit. So in general, I can divide this third unit into three different parts. One is general CPU, in that what is the basic structure of CPU and what are the registers are there, instruction formats are there, addressing modes and different instructions we will be going to discuss. The next is nothing but what is RISC and CISC, what is features and comparison between RISC and CISC. And the last part of our CPU unit is nothing but your pipelining and vector processing. So that we will be going to discuss in depth. So let us start with our first part, which is nothing but your CPU. Come to our third unit, central processing unit. In this central processing unit, let us come with an introduction. Whenever we talk about our CPU, a CPU basically consists of three different major parts. What are those three different major parts? One is nothing but your register set, second is nothing but your ALU, and the third one is nothing but your control unit. Okay, what are the different what is the general, what are the register set is there, you will be getting in depth. ALU in depth, control unit in depth. Okay, what are the design examples? Next we will be going to deal with our design examples of your simple CPU, which we have already come across, hardwired control unit and microprogram control unit in our second unit. Okay, later on what in this chapter what you will be going to discuss we will be going to describe the organization and architecture of the CPU on the user's view of the computers. Okay, so organization and architecture of your CPU will be going to discuss. Okay, now as a programmer, okay, what you need to know: users who programs a computer in machines or assembly language must be aware of instruction set, instruction formats, addressing modes, and register sets. So whenever your programmer will programs the particular, when it writes a program in a particular system, he should be having a good idea about the machine and assembly language of that particular processor. When he should be knowing what are the things he should know in that assembly language are nothing but your instruction formats, addressing modes, and what are the register set. Okay, that we'll be going to see, and later on second part of our third unit, that is RISC and CISC, we are going to cover reduced instruction set computer, and we are going to cover the complex instruction set computer. Okay, now let us see the general register set organization. If you are going to see here, I am having a register organization block diagram. Okay, in this block diagram, if you are going to see, we will be going to have total 7 registers are there. Okay, these 7 registers are nothing but from R1 to R7 are nothing but your 7 registers. All these 7 registers have been connected to 2 MUX, MUX A and MUX B. Okay, so all these registers will be connected to MUX A and MUX B. What does the registers will be going to hold? It is going to hold the data, which can be of temporary or permanent data, which we need in our programs. Okay, so those data is available in the registers. Okay, that data will be sending it to the multiplexers, and the multiplexer will be going to take any of this register value and it will be going to give it to the ALU unit. This ALU unit will be going to perform the operation, arithmetic and logical operation, based upon the instruction which we have given. Okay, and at last you will be going to get the external output. Okay, so now let us get in depth. If you are going to see in this block diagram, you are having a 3:8 decoder. Okay, and for this 3:8 decoder, we are going to have 3 selection lines. Okay, these 3 selection lines, we are saying it as a select D. So let's select D is nothing but your selection of your decoder. Okay, in the same way, for your multiplexers, a multiplexer A and multiplexer B, we are going to have 3 selection lines. Okay, and these 3 selection lines are nothing but your select A, cell A and cell B. Cell A and cell B is nothing but your selection of your multiplexer A and selections of your multiplexer B. So for those selections, we will be going to use this one. Okay, so why I am pointing out this select A and select B and select D, later on in the coming slides you can understand. Okay, now let us see that what is register. A register is nothing but it is going to have a internally you are going to have a flip-flops. Okay, so a register is nothing but consists of a group of flip-flops. What is flip-flop? A flip-flop is nothing but it is a 1-bit storage. I can store 1 bit of data in the flip-flop. Whereas in the registers, we will be going to store a bunch of A bits. So that is why we require a bunch of flip-flops. So in a register, we will be going to have a bunch of flip-flops. If I say it is an 8-bit register, means it consists of an 8 flip-flops, like that. Okay, so a register is nothing but it is used to store the data. So that data can be a pointers. Okay, so memory pointers, or it can be a counters, or it can be a written address, or it can be a temporary results, or it can be a partial products during multiplications, okay, or it can be some memory location values, okay, that will be stored in these registers. The memory access is the most time consuming operation in a computer. It is very important point. Basically, when we start our introduction to our computers or system, generally when we get in depth of your processor part, we always come across with the register concept. We always come across with your registers concept, okay. And students, everyone will think that why we require a register when memory is available for storing the data, why we require a register, and why we need to increase my hardware circuitry. So for that one, let me give us a small example. With that example, you can easily understand that what is the use of a register or what is the use of a memory. Okay, now let us take one small, like according when you go for your exams for a particular subject, you will be going to take a book, okay, test book. You are going to refer some test book, okay, and when you start studying that particular test book, okay, you know that what are the concepts are there in the test book and you have already studied, okay. When you go for the exam, before your revision of your exam, what you are going to do, you are going to revise those things. So now when you go with the test book will give you in detail explanation. But according to the exam point of view, revision, we don't require in detail explanation. We require some key points such that we can remember that whatever we have studied, some key points we require it. Okay, so for that one, what you people will be going to do is nothing but you people will take some notes and you will be going to note down those key points in that particular notes. Okay, so before the exam, you will start just revise that key points. Once you revise the key points, indirectly or directly you are going to go with a revision, that is nothing but in detail explanation. Automatically you are going to get it. Okay, now so what in when before example for revision, which book you are going to prefer? The key points which you have been written in the notes, that you are going to prefer, or you are going to prefer a main test book for referring? You always prefer the notes only. Why? Because key points are there, easily you can able to easily you can able to read it, and easily you can able to recall all the concepts of your subject. Okay, so now the time, if you are going to read my test book, the time taken by me to read the whole test book will be more when compared to the time taken by me to read the notebook key points. Yes or no? So these key points are nothing but which will take lesser time. So we require this particular thing. So that is nothing but this we are saying it as a temporary storage. Okay, that is nothing but your test book is nothing but your permanent storage, and that will your test book will act as a memory, whereas your notes will be acting as a key notes will be acting as registers. Okay, and you will be acting as a processor. Okay, now when you want to process a particular data, that is nothing but when you want a particular concept to be revised. Okay, so what you will be doing, directly you will be opening your notes, directly that particular concept you are opening, and you will be going to read that particular concept and you are going to recall it. So the time you are going to take it in the recalling way by checking your notes is very less when compared to the time taken by you where to refer a test book and to read the whole particular concept in your test book. Okay, the same thing happens in your processor also. In the processor, what happens is nothing but if the data is available in the registers, So the time taken by a processor to read the data from the register will be very less when compared to the time taken by the processor to read the data from the memory. So, to reduce the time of operation, so what we will be going to do is nothing but we will be going to store the data in the registers for manipulation and to speed up the operation of your CPU. So that is the point over here. Memory access is the most time consuming operation in a computer. That is why we always opt for the registers. Next is what? More convenient and efficient way is to store the intermediate values in the processor register. Okay, so in the processor register, the most intermediate, that is something intermediate values will be there. You will be getting some internally carry a flag, that is something but your borrow. Sorry, internally you will be going to generate some carry, overflow, or okay, borrow, you are going to get it, or some manipulation if you are going to do it. That intermediate register, intermediate values, to store that intermediate values we always uses the processor registers. Okay, so that is nothing but a general explanation about why do we require a register, what is the use of a registers. Now the coming to the bus organization for seven CPU registers. So I'm generally here I am using only 7 registers. Okay, for this 7 CPU register, what is the bus organization is available, that we are going to see here. So we are using 2 SMUX. Okay, select one of my 7 registers or external data input by select A and select B. So what it does is nothing but, if you are going to see here, my mux is of 8 by 1 mux. That means that I am going to have my 8 inputs and you are going to have my 1 output. So these 8 inputs are nothing but your 7 registers R1 to R7, and 1 is nothing but your direct data, external input data that I can give it, that will be a 8th input. Okay, so out of these 8 inputs, 1 will be selected and given as an output to which bus? A bus, if it is a mux A. Okay, so A bus contains any of the data from R1 to R7 or external input data. In the same way, mux B also will be going to have the same thing, and any one of the result will be there in the B bus. Based upon this A and B bus, your ALU will perform the operation based upon the instruction. Okay. Based upon A bus and B bus data, ALU will perform the operation and it will generate the output, which is nothing but your external output. So bus A and bus B. Bus A and bus B forms the inputs to the common ALU. And ALU will be going to perform the arithmetic and logical micro operations based upon your OPR. OPR is nothing but your operation selection. Okay. So the result of this micro operation is available for the external data output and also goes into the inputs of all the registers. Okay, so this external output data will be written back to the registers. Okay, all the registers will be going to store these results. Now, this 3:8 decoder is nothing but it is used to have a selection lines by cell D. Cell D is nothing but your selection of your decoder that receives the information from the ALU unit. Okay, so now based upon this selection, these particular registers will be selected and it will be given as an input to the mux. Now this binary selector input let us take one small example. R1 is equal to R2 plus R3. So what this will perform, it performs R1 plus R2 and it is going to store it in the R1 register. So how it is going to happen? So your mux A selector selection lines is nothing but to place the contents of R2 into the bus A. So what happens? Your R2 value will be moved to the bus A from your mux A. Next, from mux B, R3 value should be moved to the bus B by using the selection line cell B. Okay. Next, to perform the operation, what operation between these two data values R2 and R3, we need to perform the addition. So, by using OPR in the as a selector of your ALU, we will be selecting the arithmetic addition operation between R2 and R3. Okay. Now what happens? The resultant value is nothing but your external output. This external output data will be moved into the all the register. Now I need to move this external data only into the R1 register. Result should be moved to the R1 register. So what happens? Your decoder will be going to have a selection line which is going to select only the R1 register. And the decoder selection lines are nothing but from your cell D. I will be selecting a R1 register such that your data will be moved only into the R1 register. Okay. Now, to give the values of cell A, cell B, OPR operation and cell D, we will be using a particular word which is known as a control word. This control word will be of 14 bits. Now, if you are going to see in our previous one, in the previous diagram, if you are going to see here down, last you are going to have the control word. Okay, this control word if you are going to see, we are going to have first field will be cell A which is of 3 bits, next will be a cell B which is of 3 bits, next will be a cell D which is of again 3 bits. Later on you are going to have 5 bits for your to give the information about the operation to be performed. So this completely is nothing but of 14 bits. So this 14 bit, on this 14 bit word, control word, 3 bits for your selection input. Okay, source selection registers. Next cell B will be your next source selection register for your B input. Okay, next cell D is nothing but your destination register. OPR is nothing but your what type of operation I need to select. Okay, that you are going to select it by using this particular control word. Now how we are going to encode this particular selection register selection fields? Okay, suppose cell A and cell B, if the value is 0 0 0, then what is my mux is going to select? It is going to select my external input data. Okay, now in cell D, as I am having only 7 registers R1 to R7, one will be unemptied. One is you are not going to use one. That is nothing but the combination is nothing but your 0 0 0. When cell D is 0 0 0, no destination register is selected, but the contents of the input that is nothing but the contents of the output bus are available on the external output. Okay. Now encoding of ALU operation is done by using the OPR. So this is nothing but your control word register. So those is whatever that we have discussed is nothing but your control word and register organization, general register set. Okay, next comes with your stack organization, which is nothing but your, what do you mean by stack? Okay, stack I think so. From your 10th standard or from your school days, you have studied about, you heard about your stack, memory stack. What is stack? Stack organization is nothing but it always follows last in and first out. Whatever we are saving in the stack memory, the last one which we have saved in the stack memory, that you are going to retrieve first. So that is nothing but it is known as a last in and first out. Okay, a storage device that stores the information. The item stored last is the first item retrieved, is equal to a stack of tray. It is nothing but it is equal to a stack of tray. Now, to point out to my stack memory, I require a particular register. So, that register will be going to hold the stack memory address. So, that particular register is known as a stack pointer. A stack pointer is nothing but the register that holds the address of the stack for the stack is nothing but it is known as a stack pointer. A stack pointer always points at the top item in the stack. Okay, the last thing whichever we have saved, that particular item memory address will be stored in the stack pointer, that is top part. So whenever I talk about my stack memory, I generally performs two operations. One is nothing but your push operation, other is nothing but your pop operation. That is nothing but your I need to store the data. That is nothing but your insert the data into the stack memory. It is nothing but your insertion. I'll be using a push instruction. Okay, whenever I want to delete a particular data from the stack memory, or I want to retrieve the data from the stack memory, or read the data from the stack memory, then I'll be using a pop instruction. That is nothing but your push down, pop up. So what happens? Push down is nothing but I'll be first pushing the data into the down memory. Okay, so that is nothing but your push down. Pop up is nothing but your whenever I read the data automatically, my memory locations will be popping up. Okay, now when you go with the stack organization, basically there are two types of stack organization. One is nothing but your register stack organization, and the second is nothing but your memory stack organization. What do you mean by register stack organization? A register stack organization is nothing but a finite number of memory words or the registers. That is nothing but standalone. Okay, register stack organization is nothing but I will be going to provide a few memory location for the stack memory, or a bunch of registers which will act as my stack memory. Okay, and it will always act as a standalone. So that type of organization is known as a register stack. What do you mean by memory stack? Memory stack is nothing but a portion of large memory. A portion of large memory, I will be going to allot it as a stack memory. So that is known as a memory stack. Okay, coming to the register stack, how in the register stack organization, how your push and pop instruction is going to work. We'll be going to see that. If you're seeing here in the register stack organization, there are two. If you see here, I'm using two values over here, full and empty, and I'm having a stack pointer over here. Okay, so Now in the register stack organization, how we will be going to perform the push and pop operation we are going to see. So if you are going to see in this particular block here, this is nothing but your stack memory, and you are going to have the stack pointer. Okay, and you are going to have 2 points over here, full and empty. Okay, so first what happens, your stack pointer will be incremented by 1, then your data register value will be moved into the stack pointer which is pointing to that memory location. You are going to move the data. Okay, if the stack pointer is 0, then it is nothing but your full is equal to 1. So that is nothing but whether the stack is full or not, we are going to check. If it is not full, stack pointer is not equal to 0, then empty is equal to 0. Okay, so now what happens in the pop? In the pop, I will be reading the data from the stack memory, and it will be moved into the data register. So once the data is moved into the data register, your stack pointer value will be decremented by 1, and we are going to check the condition if the stack pointer is equal to 0 or not. So if the stack pointer is equal to 0, then empty will be loaded with 1. So that is nothing but the full is equal to 0. So that is nothing but it will mark that your stack memory is not full. So this is the operation of your push and pop using the register stack memory. Now coming to the memory stack. In the memory stack, what happens whenever I am doing the push operation, first your stack pointer will be decremented by 1. Later on, the data register value will be moved into the stack pointed stack memory. Okay, now for the pop operation, first the data will be moved into the data register from the stack memory. Later on, your stack pointer will be incremented by 1. So this is nothing but your memory stack. So what happens in the stack? In the stack there will be limits. What type of limits you are going to have? Whether the stack is overflow, that is nothing but your full, or it is underflow, that is nothing but it is completely empty. Okay, so that particular stack limit, that is nothing but your error condition. Error condition is nothing but your push when full is equal to 1, pop when empty is equal to 1. Okay, so that is nothing but when my stack memory is empty, can I pop it any data? Do I am having any data in the memory? No. So that is nothing but your in the pop operation. So there I am going to get my stack limits, that is nothing but a stack overflow and stack underflow. Okay, so this checked by using the 2 register upper limit and lower limit registers. So here we will be using 2 registers. One is nothing but your upper limit register and the lower limit register. Whenever it comes across the upper limit and lower limit register values, then you cannot read the data or write the data into the particular stack memory. So after the push operation, your stack pointer value will be compared with the upper limit register. Okay, if the upper limit register matches with the stack pointer, then I cannot do more push operations. I'll stop doing the push operations. Why? Because my stack memory is already completely full with data. Okay, now after pop operation, my stack pointer value will be compared with the lower limit register. Whenever it is compared with the lower limit register, what happens is nothing but whether any data is there or not. Okay, if it matches, then I cannot pop the data, that is I cannot read the data from the stack memory, which informs us that there is no data in the stack memory. So these are nothing but your stack limits. Now let us go with one type of notation which is known as an RPN notation. It is one of the important question in your final exam. Okay, he will give you some equation and he will be asking you to go with a reverse Polish notation. So for performing the stack arithmetic operations, that is nothing but in many cases in the starting stages we used to perform the stack, we used to use the stack memory to perform the operations. So thus that is nothing but a reverse Polish notation. How this stack arithmetic is going to perform, we'll see one by taking a small example. Okay, the common mathematical method of writing arithmetic expression imposes difficulties when evaluated by a computer. Okay, when you evaluate by a computer, you will be going to get a difficulties. Okay, how this will be implemented in a stack organization is very effective for evaluating the arithmetic operations. We'll be going to see. Now let us see that what is the equation I'm having: a into b plus c into d. So this is nothing but I will be going to go with the prefix or postfix notation here. What do you mean by prefix and postfix notation, which you have already come across in the C language? Prefix is nothing but first I will be going to give my, or that is nothing but operator, whether addition, multiplication. First I will be giving, later on two data values I will be going to provide. So this is known as a prefix notation. Postfix notation is nothing but first data value, later on we will be going to give an operator. So now if you see here, a into b plus c into d, I am going to represent it by using a postfix notation. So how you are going to represent, what is my first term here? A into b. So that is saying what is the data I am having here? A and b. So first I will be giving my data a and b. Later on, what is the operation I need to do? Multiplication. So I will be writing a multiplication after that one. A, b, multiplication. So that means that a into b I am going to do. So this becomes my one data. What is my second data here? C into d. C into d is again about another one value, and second data is available. Between a into b and c into d, I am going to perform the plus operation. That is nothing about your addition operation. So what I will be writing here, postfix notation will be ab into cd into plus. So what happens? A into b value data will be there. Next c into d value data will be there. Later on a into b plus c into d, we are going to perform it. Let us take one small example over here. The example over here is something with 3 into 4 plus 5 into 6. What is my postfix notation here? 3 4 into 5 6 into plus. So first what happens, 3 into 4 we are going to do, we are placing into the memory. Next 5 into 6 we are going to perform, then we are going to place it in the memory. Later on both the values will be added. Now let us see that how this equation can be implemented in the stack arithmetic operation or stack organization method. So first what happens, I will be pushing the data 3. In the second stage I will be again pushing the data 4. Okay. Next is what? Multiplication. 3 4s are 12. So the resultant will be 12 will be there in my stack memory. Okay. Next is what? 5 I need to push it. Next I need to push 6. Next is what? Multiplication operation. So this multiplication operation is between which data? 5 and 6. So what it is? 5 6 are 30. So 30 will be there in my stack memory. The next is what? Plus operation is there. So I need to perform the plus operation between the two numbers. That is nothing but your 30 and 12. So what is my resultant value? It is nothing but your 42. So the result value will be 42. This is known as a reverse Polish notation. So where I will be using my postfix notation to perform the stack arithmetic operation. So by this we are done with your stack organization and register organization. Okay, in the next class we will be going to see the instruction formats. Okay, addressing modes, instruction formats, we are going to see it in our next class. Thank you.